Clone Trooper Torrent, or TX-828 as he was later known, was the last clone trooper ever born and raised on Kamino before the tragic day of Order 66 and the creation of the Empire by Chancellor Palpatine. Because Torrent was part of the last batch of clone troopers from the Rainy World, he did not serve in the Grand Army of the Republic for very long before being converted to a clone stormtrooper loyal to the Empire. So, I'm going to break down the awesome story of Clone Trooper Torrent and how he may still be alive after the events of Endor with Captain Rex and Wolf. Before we get into it, make sure to hit the subscribe button for more awesome Star Wars lore content. In the final days of the cloning program on the water world of Kamino, Clone Trooper Torrent was created through the standard laboratory cloning process from the Jango Fett genome. Unfortunately, we don't yet know what his clone production number was, but we do know that not long into his service for the Republic, on the front lines of battle, he was given the nickname Torrent by his clone brothers. Let me know down below what action you think a clone would have to do to gain the nickname Torrent. Maybe he was known for his use of heavy weaponry and always provided a torrent of blaster fire to cover his brothers. Soon after Order 66 was called and almost every single Jedi Knight of the Republic was turned on and brutally slaughtered by their clone troopers, the Grand Army of the Republic was transitioned into the Imperial Army and Navy, placing every clone trooper who still had the mental and physical capacity to serve into the ranks of the Empire. Unfortunately, we still don't know whether or not Torrent executed Order 66 after receiving the order, or even who his Jedi General and Legion were, but I think we'll definitely get more information on him with the Bad Batch series, which should be coming around February or March. Based on his story though, I think it's almost certain that he did gun down his Jedi without hesitation. Let me know right now in the comments which Legion and Jedi General Torrent may have been in. Because of his incredibly late birth on Kamino, Torrent, or TX-828 as he was now called in the ranks of the Imperial Army, became one of the last clones still remaining in service of the Empire after many of them were phased out. Surprisingly, Torrent had served the Empire all the way up to 0 BBY, where he had risen through the ranks all the way up to the rank of Sergeant. Being much more clever and able to think outside of the box, more than even some of the human-born stormtroopers who served alongside him, Torrent quickly joined the Imperial Security Bureau, where he came under the service of Senior Imperial Commander Alicia Beck. Torrent and Commander Beck were soon stationed aboard the Imperial-class Star Destroyer called the Vehement, where they were tasked with tracking down a rebel special recon group called the Shrikes. The Shrikes were led by Rebel Lieutenant Calawan Emmett, who had his men stationed on the planet Tarnab. Commander Beck and Trooper Torrent were able to rapidly track the small squad of rebel operatives to the planet, where they hoped to observe their actions and carefully discover any information that they could about Rebel High Command. Shortly after this, Commander Beck and Torrent's mission came to a screeching stop after hearing the devastating news that the Empire's superweapon, the Death Star, had been destroyed by the rebels, sending the entire Imperial command structure into severe panic and chaos. For a short while after the incident, nobody had clear information on what exactly had gone down and how the Empire would move forward after such a shocking event. Eventually, however, Emperor Palpatine put an end to all of the confusion and panic, sending an order from the Imperial Palace on Coruscant instructing all ISB officials to apprehend any suspected sympathizers or members of the Rebel Alliance without question, interrogation, or negotiation. Following this direct order from Palpatine, Torrent was ordered by Commander Beck to take a small squad of 8 stormtroopers to ambush the Shrikes at the exact moment that they attempted to escape the planet that they were hiding on and take each of them prisoner for further interrogation. Torrent quickly flicked the firm switch on his E11 blaster rifle to stun mode before instructing his men to do the same. Torrent's squad quickly engaged the Shrikes in a fierce confrontation where they were able to capture 4 rebel troopers, but unfortunately let one Rodian rebel escape. Shockingly, this Rodian returned to the scene of the firefight after the battle, brutally blasting all of his fellow rebel operatives with his blaster before turning the metallic barrel on himself and pulling the trigger. Torrent was of course shocked by this atrocity, and Commander Beck believed that he had committed this horrendous action to protect important rebel secrets. The leader of the Shrikes, Calawan Emmett, did actually manage to elude Torrent's search party, escaping off-world, infuriating Commander Beck. Because of this, she quickly ordered Torrent to take an additional 10 squads from the Vehement to search the hangars of the abandoned rebel ships nearby and to intimidate local cantinas in hopes of finding the missing rebel leader. After some thorough investigation on where Lieutenant Emmett could have escaped to, she quickly determined that he must be located on the toxic, crime-ridden planet of Serkon, deep inside of Hutt space. Once the Vehement arrived on the dodgy world, Torrent took a squad to the city of Motok, which was the capital of the planet. Once Torrent squads were firmly in the center of the city, they began sweeping the streets for Lieutenant Emmett, eventually arriving at a local cantina. On the command of his superior officer, Torrent and his squad lined up every single person inside of the cantina with their backs firmly against the wall to interrogate each of them. Torrent was even given the order to kill the cantina patrons if they showed even an inch of aggression or resistance against the interrogation. As this horrific interrogation process slowly moved through each of the patrons of the bar, a red Twi'lek man bravely spoke up, saying that nobody inside of the establishment had seen the rebel leader. Bek, of course, viciously threatened the Twi'lek in response, asking him if he knew that Emmett was a rebel sympathizer. After nervously responding saying that yes, he did have suspicions about the man, Torrent lifted his metallic blaster and immediately gunned down the red Twi'lek in cold blood, to the horror of everyone inside of the cantina. Torrent then immediately dragged the cold body of the Twi'lek outside, dumping it nearby, before Commander Bek received a communication from the captain of the Vehement telling her that a Corellian YT-1300 light freighter under the alias Lost and Found had landed nearby to their location. I wonder who could be aboard this freighter. Trooper Torrent and Commander Bek soon realized that this light freighter landing was not simply a coincidence, but that they were actually there to rescue the fugitive rebel lieutenant. As Torrent took his 10 squads of troopers to investigate further, they very quickly encountered a large firefight in the main plaza of the nearby spaceport, and very soon after, some passerbys in the crowd shouted out, "They are rebels," before falling back into the shadows nearby. Torrent didn't realize that these two passerbys were actually Han Solo and Chewbacca, who were being hunted down by a group of bounty hunters sent after them by Jabba the Hutt. Han's quick thinking caused Torrent to hunt down and execute the bounty hunters who were still on his tail, which led to a massive embarrassment for Commander Bek, as when Torrent searched the bodies of the dead bounty hunters, he found an Imperial Peacekeeping Certificate, or more simply known as an official bounty hunter's license issued by the Empire. Torrent had just killed Imperial sanctioned bounty hunters by mistake. You can imagine the Emperor would not be too happy with this at all. Following this, Bek orders Torrent to go undercover on the search for the fugitives Han Solo and Chewbacca, wearing more standard attire instead of his stormtrooper armor. As he removes his armor, we get an awesome moment between Commander Bek and TX-828, where Bek finally gets to see his face, realizing that he was actually a clone from the war for the first time. Bek then asks the trooper what he was called during the war, to which he tells her that he was named Torrent by his brothers. From here on out, Bek changed the trooper's official Imperial call sign from TX-828 to simply Torrent. Shortly after this, Torrent boarded a swoop bike and raced through the city to chase some more bounty hunters, which in turn were chasing Han and Chewie, who now had Lieutenant Emmett with them, helping him to escape. Without the trio seeing, Torrent blasted the set of bounty hunters so that he could capture them himself and return them to his commander. Eventually, the chase was simply too hard to maintain, and Han, Chewie and Emmett were quickly surrounded by Torrent and his men, where they were rounded up and searched in a very rough manner. The pat-down search, however, was quickly interrupted when Han pulled a blaster rifle from seemingly nowhere and quickly revealed that the whole chase was actually a setup on Torrent, and was able to lure the stormtroopers to a vulnerable location in the planet's shield systems. As the realization that he had been tricked rushed through Torrent's mind, Solo violently blasted the planetary shield generators nearby, sending the incredibly dangerous and toxic hot air rushing into the building. As the stormtroopers and Torrent fell into a mad panic, Solo, Chewie and Emmett quickly rushed to the Millennium Falcon, where they are able to make a daring escape off-world and immediately jump to hyperspace. This failed attempt at capturing the trio infuriates Torrent and Commander Bek. As Torrent was about to leave, he looked over all of the bodies of his fallen brothers with a strong sense of sadness filling his mind, despite the fact that they weren't clones. And because he's still alive at this point, he may meet up with Rex and Wolf, or maybe even be an enemy to the two since he's still loyal to the Empire. So that is the story of the last clone trooper ever born on Kamino. Thanks so much for watching, really hope you enjoyed the video. Cheers guys, hope to see you in the next one.